Have you ever wondered what the ancient Egyptians believed happened after we die? It's a fascinating journey, and at the heart of it all is a powerful and mysterious figure, Anubis, the god with the head of a jackal. Today, we're diving deep into the mythology of this iconic deity, exploring his roles, his symbols, and why he was so crucial to every single person in ancient Egypt. Let's start with who Anubis actually was. He wasn't just some spooky figure lurking in the tombs. He was the god of mummification, the afterlife, and lost souls. Imagine him as the ultimate guide for the deceased, a comforting presence who would lead them from the world of the living into the great unknown. His image, that striking black jackal head on a human body, is one of the most recognizable symbols from ancient Egypt. But why a jackal? Well, jackals were often seen scavenging around cemeteries, so the Egyptians associated them with death and the protection of the dead. The color black wasn't a symbol of evil. It represented the fertile soil of the Nile, a symbol of rebirth and regeneration. So, from the very beginning, Anubis was a figure of hope, not fear. His story begins in the earliest dynasties of Egypt. Originally, he was considered the most important god of the dead. But, as myths evolved, the story of Osiris, the king who was murdered and resurrected, became more prominent. Anubis's role then shifted slightly. He became the son of Osiris and his sister, Nephthys. In this version of the myth, Nephthys disguised herself as Isis, Osiris's wife, to conceive Anubis. Fearing the wrath of her husband Set, Nephthys abandoned the infant Anubis in the reeds. He was later found and raised by Isis, becoming her loyal protector and attendant. This backstory ties him directly to the central family of Egyptian gods and solidifies his place in the pantheon. One of Anubis's most important jobs was as the inventor of embalming. According to the myths, when Osiris was killed and dismembered by his jealous brother Set, it was Anubis who, along with Isis, reassembled Osiris's body and wrapped it in linen bandages, performing the very first mummification ritual. This act not only resurrected Osiris as the king of the underworld, but also established the entire process that Egyptians would follow for thousands of years to preserve their own bodies for the afterlife. Anubis became the patron god of embalmers, and priests performing the mummification rituals would often wear a jackal mask to embody the god himself, ensuring every step was done with divine precision. But Anubis's duties didn't end with mummification. His most famous role, the one you've probably seen in movies and art, was as the master of secrets and the guardian of the scales in the Hall of Two Truths. This was the final judgment. After a long and perilous journey through the underworld, the soul of the deceased would arrive in this hall. Anubis would greet them and lead them to a great golden scale. On one side of the scale, he would place the heart of the person. The heart was believed to be the seat of intelligence, emotion, and memory, the very essence of who you were. On the other side of the scale was the feather of Mat, the goddess of truth, justice, and order. This single, weightless feather represented perfect harmony. The deceased would then have to recite the negative confessions, a list of sins they had not committed during their lifetime, like I have not stolen, or I have not lied. The goal was for the heart to balance perfectly with the feather. If your heart was lighter than the feather or balanced with it, it meant you had lived a virtuous life. Anubis would then lead your soul to Osiris, who would grant you entry into the field of reeds. The Egyptian version of paradise, a beautiful, eternal land, much like the Egypt they knew. But what happened if your heart was heavy with sin? If it outweighed the feather, it was a terrible fate. Waiting beside the scales was Ammit, a terrifying goddess known as the devourer of the dead. She had the head of a crocodile, the torso of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus, a combination of the most feared animals in Egypt. If your heart failed the test, Amit would devour it, and your soul would cease to exist forever. This was the ultimate end, a second death from which there was no return. Anubis's role here was impartial. He was the divine arbiter, ensuring the process was fair. He didn't pass judgment himself, but he oversaw the weighing that determined your eternal destiny. Now, you might have heard Anubis being compared to Greek gods, and there's an interesting connection there. When the Greeks, under Alexander the Great, came to rule Egypt, their cultures began to merge. The Greeks saw similarities between their god Hermes, the messenger god who also guided souls to the underworld, and Anubis. This led to the creation of a syncretic, or combined deity called ANUBIS. He was depicted with the body of Hermes and the head of a jackal, often holding the caduceus, Hermes' staff. This shows just how respected and enduring Anubis's role was, that even a new ruling culture chose to integrate him into their own beliefs rather than replace him. Even though the worship of the ancient Egyptian gods faded with the rise of Christianity, Anubis has never truly left our collective consciousness. He remains a powerful symbol in modern culture, appearing in books, video games, and movies. Often, he is mistakenly portrayed as a sinister or evil god of death. But, as we've learned, that couldn't be further from the truth. For the ancient Egyptians, Anubis was a guardian, a guide, and a figure of profound comfort. He represented the promise that death was not an end, but a transition, and that a just and orderly process awaited everyone. He ensured that the dead were cared for and given a fair chance at eternal life. So, the next time you see that iconic image of the jackal-headed god, remember his true story. He wasn't a monster from a dusty tomb, but a central figure in a complex belief system about life, death, and justice. He was the protector of the dead, the inventor of mummification, and the steady hand that guided souls on their final journey to face the scales of truth. The story of Anubis is a reminder of the ancient world's deep desire for order, morality, and the hope of a life beyond this one. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the Egyptian underworld. If you enjoyed learning about Anubis, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history and mythology. Let me know in the comments which god or myth you'd like to explore next. See you in the next video.